Welcome back to my podcast, you guys. I'm really excited to have you here. So, we are going to be moving forward with part 3 of our Ruth series. I am really excited about this one. Ruth is such an incredible feminine queen. I have absolutely loved getting to know her better in this story. And then Boaz, this is a really fun chapter where we really get to look at Boaz and see what kind of a man he really is. So thank you so much for joining in here. Let's go ahead and get started. So as we know, just a really quick recap of the two last chapters is we have Ruth and Naomi. They were in a distant land. They were in Moab, and their husbands died, and so they decided to move to back home where Naomi was from. And Ruth, she listens to her inspiration. She listens to what she feels like she should do, and she follows Naomi. And then in chapter 2, we learned about how Ruth was willing to go into the fields and to glean the extra grain so that they would have food to eat. And I didn't really mention this last episode, but I really want to mention it now. I think it is such a beautiful testament of the divine, incredible, magnetizing woman that Ruth was, that the fact that the moment she gets into the field, Boaz immediately asks, "Who is this? Who is this woman?" And also, why were his eyes drawn to Ruth? I'm sure there were many workers. I'm sure there were many women that were out there. But as I was thinking about this, I was like, you know what? She embodied feminine energy so beautifully. She was so connected to her intuition. She was so connected to her heart and how she chose to show up in the world, her loyalty to Naomi, her loyalty to God, and just her trust that things would work out for her. When you embody that femininity to that level, this is not a show that you put on. This is not something that you can try harder to do. This is just someone that you become, someone that you are. And when you become to that level on the inside, your outside can't help but reflect that. So the energy that was surrounding her, or another word for that would be like her aura, was just so filled up with feminine magnetism that Boaz couldn't help but being drawn to her. How cool is that? When we embody our feminine energy, we draw things to us that are for our highest and best good. Not when we pretend to be feminine, but when we actually become and live and show up from that space. And if you look at chapter 1 and chapter 2, that is exactly what Ruth did. She was not out there trying to show up as a feminine woman. She just was a feminine woman. And that in and of itself drew Boaz's eyes to her. Okay, so I just had to make that little point because I thought it was so cute and such a neat representation of how powerful the feminine is. So we are now in chapter 3. The harvest is pretty much over, and we are the majority of this episode is going to take place on the threshing floor. So basically the threshing floor, it's a hard-packed open space. It's an outside area. It's kind of outside of town, but it's where all of the men, they bring the grain and they bring the harvest and they separate the grain from the shaft. Okay. And oftentimes they would sleep out there, probably to guard the piles, make sure nobody would come and steal it and stuff. But it was a huge open space. So it's not like a bedroom. It's not a private area. It's very, very public. So I want to make that very known because, like I said, a lot of things happen in this chapter. And for those of us that are not familiar with the customs or familiar with their traditions, this chapter feels really weird. And it feels like just a little bit different. So I want to, as I go through this, I'm going to be explaining some of the traditions so that it doesn't sound so strange and just kind of pull out the normalcy of it. And also, as I'm going through this, I really want you guys to see Ruth's character, to see Ruth's acceptance of her feminine energy and her willingness to trust. And how can you use that in your life? Like maybe you are not living the exact same life as Ruth. Very, very few of us, if any of us, are obviously living that life. But how did she address problems? How did she address her fears? Like, what did she do that helped her move forward when, honestly, she should have been petrified in absolute fear? But she wasn't, and she moved forward in so much faith. So look for those things that she does and how she does it, and then implement that into your life. Okay, so again, Naomi, she's always looking out for Ruth, and she knows that Boaz is a male relative. So I don't know if I mentioned this in last week's episode, but their tradition was that the next male kinsman of like a widow's husband, late husband, whatever, it was their job basically to provide for that widow. So Boaz is actually a kinsman of Naomi's husband, which makes him also obviously a kinsman to Ruth's husband. So Naomi knows this, and so she goes to Ruth, and she says, this is in chapter 3, verse 3, and I'm going to go ahead and just read it because I want to say it the way she says it. Naomi goes to Ruth, and she says, wash thyself, therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man until he shall have done eating and drinking. Okay, so first we're going to focus on that first part when she says, anoint thee, put thy raiment upon thee. So what does that mean? It kind of sounds like, if you're unaware of what's going on, it sounds like they are trying to maybe seduce Boaz. Like, oh, go put on some perfume, get dressed up. You're going to go and you're going to meet this man at night. Like, it sounds a little risque, right? But what's actually happening here is Naomi is letting Ruth know it's okay to step out of mourning and back into life. Because remember, both of their husbands have died, so they've been in this period of mourning, which is completely unacceptable for you to then try to approach another man, right? But Naomi is letting her know, this season of your life, it's past. Like, you can now step back into the normal, back into life. Okay. So I guess think of it as changing from your funeral blacks into your everyday clothes again. Okay. She's just letting Ruth know that this is acceptable. It's okay. And then Naomi, she lets her know what the plan is. Basically, she says, wait until Boaz finishes his long day. Notice where he lays down, and then I didn't read it, but basically she tells her, quietly go uncover his feet and then lie down, and then he'll tell you what to do. Again, like let's look at that. Uncover his feet. What does that even mean? Like, why would you do that? How strange is that for somebody to go up and, anyways, what does that mean? But it's kind of practical. When she exposes his lower legs at night, the cool air will wake him up gently. And so it kind of creates this private, respectful place to have a conversation in a public area without alarming the whole crew, right? So it's just kind of like this gentle way of waking him up, and so that they can have this conversation. Again, maybe a little bit different than how we would do it nowadays, but that was the purpose behind that. So Ruth says, as Ruth is so good, she says, all that you say, I will do. Now, again, I want to emphasize that I don't think Ruth is blindly following Naomi. What I think is happening is Ruth is so in touch with her own divine inspiration that when Naomi is laying out this plan or letting her know what she needs to do, that Ruth knows that it is the right next step. And when I say laying out a plan, again, that almost makes it sound like they're scheming, but they're not. What they're trying to do is they just want to bring to Boaz's awareness, if he wasn't already aware, that Ruth is the widow of his kinsman. Therefore, it is his duty and honor to now provide for Ruth. So that's kind of where we're going with this story. All right, so night falls, the work is done. So Ruth, she does exactly what she's been told. She watches to see where Boaz lies down, and then she goes near his feet and she waits. And of course he wakes up, he's surprised. Of course he's surprised. He's like, what are you doing here? But so he wakes up and there's Ruth. And this is what she says to him. Again, I'm going to go ahead and read it because I want it to be exactly the way that Ruth says it. So this is chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. And she says, or it says, and it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. So again, he's like a little shocked. And he says, who art thou? And she answered, I'm Ruth, thy handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. Okay, so let's dissect that a little bit and let's kind of figure out what some of these words mean. Because again, it can sound a little bit like risque, spread thy skirt over me. But that is not at all what she's saying. Basically, what she's saying is, hey, I know that you are the nearest kinsman to me, to my husband. And she's just basically asking him, will you provide for me? Will you make sure that I am not destitute? Will you make sure that I am taken care of? And I love this aspect of Ruth's feminine energy because I feel like with Ruth, she shows us a beautifully well-rounded feminine woman. The beginning, she's very humble. She's very willing to do what God tells her. She's determined. Once she knows what she's supposed to do, she was determined. She was unwilling to let Naomi talk her out of what she felt was right. And then in chapter 2, we see that humble part of her, the part that is willing to go and glean from the fields. I'm sure that was a very low life, not low life, but like only the poor of the poor of the poor, I'm sure, would do that. And so she humbled herself and she was willing to do that, to provide for her and for Naomi. And then we also see the feminine part of her that is willing to accept provision, and she's willing to accept gifts from, like the gift of provision from Boaz. She's not too proud. She's grateful. Like, that's such a beautiful part of feminine energy, and I love that. But look at this one right here. This part, it can feel like almost opposite. Well, here she is, like she's directly asking for what she needs. Isn't that a masculine trait? Well, maybe, but if we look at how she does it, okay, she goes forward with faith. Like she knows, she feels like this is something she should do. So she goes to Boaz and she just says, will you provide for me? And then she stops right there. And I love this part. She's not trying to help him figure out how he's going to do it or what he needs to do next. It's like she took the job that God gave her, which was go and request or ask from Boaz. And then she stopped right there and she sunk right back into her feminine energy, which is trusting. She was very direct with what she needed, what she wanted, which, oh my gosh, you guys, is a feminine trait. To be able to express what you need, but not then move into and this is how it's going to happen and this is what I expect. Okay, that is the feminine energy right there, which she was able to just let Boaz know, this is who I am and this is who you are. You are my next of kin. Will you do this for me? And then she lets him kind of figure out what he then needs to do. And I think that's so beautiful. It was clarity. She was very clear without being aggressive. And she was very courageous without causing a lot of drama. Like, how beautiful is that? Ruth is such a feminine queen. I love it. Okay, now we get to see what Boaz does. What is his answer? How does he approach this? You guys, Boaz is like a masculine king. This man is so drawn to this incredible feminine woman. Like, he provides. It's almost like he cannot help himself. He wants to provide for this woman. And I think that this answer is so beautiful. So first, what he does is he blesses her. I think that's so sweet. Like, he pronounces a blessing on her. Like, how respectful is that of him to recognize that she is such a valuable and honorable woman. And he also kind of lets her know, I've seen you, I've seen what you've done. And he just really lets her know how much honor he has for her. And I think that is so sweet. I think it's so beautiful. But so he says all of these, and then he says, let me see if I can find it in here. In verse 12, he says, let's see. And now it is true that I am thy near kin. Howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. So what does that mean? Basically, he's saying, you are right. We are, like, you are my kinsman. But there's actually a kinsman that is, like, closer to you. And, okay, I'm going to read between the lines really quick right here. But how cool is it that Boaz already knows that there is a kinsman closer to Ruth? He's already thought about it, you guys. He's already noticed her. He's already been drawn to her. He's already thought about it. But he knows that he's not the first in line that has the right to provide for this woman. I think that's so cute that he's like, yeah, absolutely, except I'm actually not first in line. But then he also does something that's really cool. He tells her, if this man that is first in line, if he chooses to not take you, if he chooses to not provide for you, I will. And Boaz, every single thing that Boaz has done for Ruth has been to allow her feminine energy to live in peace. Everything he has done. From the minute he first notices her, he goes to her and he says, hey, I have food and water that you can have. You should stay with these women. They're safe. You'll be safe there. Oh, and if that's not enough, I also want to let you know that I've already talked to the men that they're not allowed to be around you. They're not allowed to harass you. So he's giving her so many opportunities for her to rest in her feminine energy. What a gift that had to have been for poor Ruth, who has been, has left her homeland. She's lost her husband. She's in this new place. She's struggling. And then Boaz basically gives her this group of friends that she can hang out with and be so safe with. Feminine energy is not competitive. Feminine energy craves other feminine energy. So how neat is it that Ruth was given this from Boaz to collaborate and to feed off of and to heal herself with other women. And if that wasn't enough, he also added that extra layer of, and I've already told the men to stay away from you, that you will be safe. You can just flow in your feminine while you're here. You can just enjoy your time. Just be here. I'll feed you, we'll water you. Also, there's extra grain. We're going to make sure there's extra grain for you. Like, everything that Boaz does is to make sure that Ruth is taken care of, both physically and emotionally. Like, he is such a king. I love it. And then he continues that. He says, I am your nearest kin, but again, like, there's somebody else. But if he chooses not to provide for you, I will do that for you. So she is covered either way. She's protected. She's going to be provided for either way. And then he tells her, go ahead, lay down, get some rest. And so she's able to rest. I'm sure he watches over, make sure that she sleeps, make sure that she's safe. And then when she gets up to leave the next morning, he gives her more grain. It's like he just can't help himself. He just can't. He wants so much to provide for this incredible woman. So he gives her more grain so that she can go home that night that day without worrying about how she's going to eat the next day or the next day or the next day. And I think it's just such a testament to, one, how powerful the feminine is to draw in an incredible masculine man, and how powerful it is for the masculine man to have the opportunity to provide. Like, when we as feminine women allow the masculine man in our life to provide for us, it fills us both up. It gives him purpose and an opportunity to give his God-given gifts to us. And then it also gives us an opportunity to rest in peace and love. And that is a healthy feminine masculine dynamic. That is what we're striving for. That's what we want, right? So I want to end this with just letting you guys know that as you heal your feminine energy, as you begin to embody that feminine design that is already in you, like you already have that. It's almost like you just have to unwrap it, or you just have to like unmask it. It has been masked for so many years. But if you can unmask it and really just let that feminine shine from within, your aura, the energy that is surrounding you, cannot help but draw in incredible masculine providers. And if you don't have an actual provider in your life right now, or if the man that you're with right now is not providing that safety and security like you want, there's a couple things that you can do. The feminine energy is so powerful, and when we embody it, we unconsciously give permission to that man in our life to step into his masculine energy. And here he has two choices. Either he will step into it and he will become a better man because you are in your feminine, or he will choose or decide it's not worth it, this is too much work, and he will leave. Either choice is exactly what you need. I firmly believe that God's plan or mission for us in our lives is to help us have peace. So everything that we experience, if we are able to surrender it to God, every single experience that we have had, will have, or ever have had, every single thing is going to bring us closer to peace when we surrender it to God. Peace comes only after that surrender. So you can surrender to your feminine, and you can surrender and go into your intuition and whatever God is asking you to do, and it will, again, ignite this masculinity within your man, and he will step up. Or if he doesn't, that can be really scary. Like, but what if he leaves me? What if I don't have him anymore? If you can surrender that part to God, I promise you, peace is on the other side of that. Exactly like we saw with Naomi, she went to Boaz with a direct request. It was not an aggressive request. It was just an honest, direct request. And then she stopped right there. She didn't then try to figure out the how or the when. She just stopped, and she gave that trust back to God and said, however this is going to work out is going to be for my highest good. And if you can do that, if your man chooses to not stay with you, and if you can just put that trust back in God, I promise you, he will give you peace, and things will turn out so much better than you ever imagined that they could. Just like with Ruth, again, look at her. She lost her husband. She left her home. She's in a new land. They're destitute, basically. She's trying to glean the leftover grain just to feed her and Naomi. But look at how when she settles into that, things start changing for her. There comes a man that is so excited to provide, so willing to provide, is almost begging her to let him provide. So that feminine energy, I really encourage you to sink into that, to ask God, how can I embody this? What is it in me that needs to change today so that I can embody that faith and that trust that you're asking me to do? I promise you, he has got an answer for you. And if we can let go of the how and just sink into our heart space, sink into our intuition, we will have the courage to do what we need to do. Oftentimes, it is our head that causes more chaos than peace. But if we can almost like, it's almost like you emotionally decapitate yourself. That sounds gruesome, but keep all of your emotions, keep all of your energy in your heart, or like where your torso is, right? Your heart space, your womb space, your solar plexus, that area. Stay out of your head. Focus on your body. What is my body telling me? What is God telling me? And I promise you, God speaks to women's hearts. He is not going to speak to your mind. There was absolutely no logic for Ruth to leave with Naomi. No logic. She was going to be way worse off if she left than if she would have stayed. But her heart told her to go. And look at this. This amazing man just cannot help but provide for her. He desperately wants to. That's exactly how it is. Sink into your heart space, sink into your body, Don't let your mind freak you out. Stay there. And I promise you, God will speak to you and he will tell you everything that you need to do. Just ask him, is there a tiny thing that I can change today to be more in my feminine? What can I do that will help me recognize what I need to change? And I promise you, you will get the answer. And then the fun part is actually implementing that answer, right? Because sometimes we'll go into our head and be like, oh, that doesn't sound good. That's going to put me in a really vulnerable position. Yeah, it probably will. But you know what? God loves it when we are vulnerable, and he will never, ever put us in a position that is going to hurt us. So if we can let go of being fearful and give that to God, just like Ruth did, then I promise you, things will start to work out. Your heart will become softened, and you will start to crave peace above being right, above proving that your way is better. I promise you, and I can tell you from personal experience that I am able to let go of things that I never thought that I would be able to let go of, because I crave the peace that I have felt over being right or over my own idea of protecting myself. Because let's be honest, the way I was protecting myself was behind hate and anger. That's not protection. I still felt anxious. I still felt fearful. I still felt hurt. But once I was able to let that go and give it to God, I truly felt peaceful. And I truly felt protected because I was no longer attacking myself. Those emotions were no longer hurting me. It was 100% more protective than the facade that I was putting on of protecting myself behind all of my hate and anger. So trust that feminine energy. She's beautiful, she's magnificent, and she is magnetic. And you will feel so much more peace and see so much more good when you sink into that. All right, I'm super excited for next chapter. This is where Boaz just really goes to bat for Ruth. And if you know anything about the masculine energy, they are the competers. The feminine does not compete. They collaborate. The masculine, oh boy, do they compete. That is part of their divine makeup. And so I just love it. This is where Boaz actually gets to go to the elders, and he basically gets to fight for his right to protect and provide for Ruth. And I think it's so fun. Again, I like to read between the lines, and I just think it's so funny how he comes at this. Like, this man is determined. This woman is his. Like, he really, I think, has already decided this woman is the woman that I want to protect and provide for. She is mine. And he has to go and basically fight for his right to have her as his wife. And I think it's beautiful. So I'm really excited to get into that part. If you are enjoying this, and if you want any more support, you can join my private Facebook community. It's called The Confidently Feminine. I post in there weekly, I answer questions, and I do go deeper where I feel like people need it. This is a very safe space to practice these ideas with other women of faith. So you can just search Confidently Feminine on Facebook, and you can request to join. And I will also put a link in the notes so you can go there and just click it. I cannot wait to see you guys over there. If this has helped you, please comment, follow, and share the show so that other moms, other women can find it. Let's learn and heal together. I love you. Until next time. Bye-bye.